Imagine finding a stone that could change your life and losing everything just because you made the wrong decision in the first few minutes. It might sound like an exaggeration, but that's exactly what happened to one of the subscribers of this channel. He chose to stay anonymous, but agreed to let us share his story. According to his own words, if someone had shown him what you're about to see in this video, everything would have turned out differently. This story begins on a regular day. He was hiking with his kids along a trail near a river in a rural area in the southern United States. Just another sunny afternoon with warm weather and the peaceful sound of water flowing over rocks. A scene you might know well, but one that few would imagine could be the setting for a possible high-value diamond discovery. To sum up what happened, during the walk, the kids started playing along the riverbank, tossing little rocks into the water, hopping between stones, watching the fish. And that's when he saw it right there in the gravel left behind by the current, a small stone that looked different, tiny with a much stronger shine than usual. When he held it up to the sun, it reflected light in a strange way. He picked it up, took a closer look, almost threw it back into the river. But something about that shine made him keep it in his pocket. That stone stayed in a little box, forgotten in the back of a drawer, alongside other small rocks his kids had collected that day. Until one day, by chance, while watching a video from this channel, he realized that maybe that shiny little stone was something more. He pulled out the drawer, ran some simple tests like the sandpaper test, a density check, and even UV light, and everything pointed to the same possibility. That tiny rock might be a raw diamond, hiding among all the quartz crystals. Of course, he had noticed the unusual shine, but he never imagined he'd picked up a diamond. Now, this is definitely an exception to the rule. It's not impossible, but diamonds are extremely rare in nature, especially when found by chance like this. Still, the truth is, there are many other high-value gemstones that can be found in nature, and each one tends to show up in specific areas depending on the local geology. Now think about it. Spending years with a precious stone tucked away in a drawer, not knowing, not identifying, not protecting it. And the worst part? He said he almost threw it out several times, thinking it was just a piece of ordinary crystal. Many of the gemstones found in nature today, after being cut and polished, are sold for thousands of dollars at auctions around the world. Just like that beautiful yellow diamond now appearing on your screen, which was discovered by a child playing near an abandoned mine. This proves one important thing. Finding a stone like that is only half the journey. The other half, and maybe the most important part, is knowing what to do with it. And that's exactly why, in today's video, you're going to see the 5 biggest mistakes people make after finding a valuable stone for the first time. And more importantly, how to avoid making those same mistakes yourself. Because when it comes to gemstones found in nature, not throwing away a precious stone might be the most important decision of your life. Now that you understand how a stone found by chance can end up forgotten in the back of a drawer for years, the first and most common mistake many people make is this: selling or even throwing away their gemstones before they know what they actually have. This happens more often than you'd think. And the worst part? Most people only realize what they've lost when it's already too late. The excitement of finding something unusual, combined with a lack of information and the hope of making a quick buck, makes many people skip essential steps. Instead of researching, identifying, comparing the stone, or asking for a second opinion, they just accept the first offer that comes their way. And that's exactly where the danger is. There are buyers out there who specialize in taking advantage of these situations. People who visit gem fairs, mine sites, or even scroll through Facebook groups and online marketplaces looking for someone who's selling a stone without knowing what it is. These buyers can recognize the value of a rough gem at a glance, and when they see something truly valuable, they'll do everything they can to buy it quickly and cheaply, saying things like, "This isn't worth much, probably just common quartz," or "I can take it off your hands for $10 just to help you out." And guess what? Most people say yes, because hearing that what you found is worthless, especially from someone who seems to know what they're talking about, is often enough to lower your guard. One of the most frustrating cases ever shared here on the channel was about a young man who found a crystal with an oily shine and triangular shape during a hike. He posted a photo of it in a local online sales group, asking if it could be something rare. Most people said it was quartz. Then a collector messaged him privately, praised the find, and offered $10, saying he liked to collect unusual stones. The young man agreed and never thought about it again. A few months later, that same crystal showed up in an online auction for rare minerals, listed as an uncut natural diamond, origin unspecified. Now, of course, there's no way to be 100% sure it was the same exact stone, but the similarity was striking. The shape, the shine, even the tiny internal spots were identical. And even if it wasn't the same specimen, the case shows how often these stories repeat themselves. Because the problem isn't in selling. Selling a gemstone can absolutely be a great decision, as long as you know what you're selling. The problem is selling before you're sure, before you study it, before you compare it to other samples, before you understand if it actually has value on the gem market, because it's in that window, between finding and identifying that opportunists strike. Another similar story involved a woman who found a dark blue stone near an old dry riverbed. The surface looked weathered, like it had been rolled around by the water for years. It was heavy and beautiful, so she kept it just out of curiosity. A few days later, she showed it to a family friend who worked with jewelry. He said it might be a sapphire, but probably not worth much. He offered $15. She sold it. A year later, she heard through mutual friends that he had sent the stone out for analysis, and according to the tests, it was a natural sapphire over 20 carats. The estimated value? More than $3,000, even in its raw state. Both of these cases follow the same pattern. The stone didn't look like anything special, but with just a little knowledge and patience, it turned out to be something far more valuable. And that's the main takeaway from this part of the video. Never make quick decisions when it comes to stones you find in nature. The first thing you need to do is hold back the excitement and understand that you could be dealing with something that has real value. It might be symbolic, educational, or commercial, but only those who study, test, and confirm can make the right choice, whether that's to sell, cut, keep, or even turn it into jewelry. As we mentioned earlier, the first instinct for anyone who finds a valuable-looking stone is to sell it. But even those who resist that urge and decide to hold on to it often make a second, equally dangerous mistake, trying to improve the stone's appearance by force. This happens because most people believe a gemstone is only valuable if it's clean, shiny, and polished, like the ones you see in jewelry store windows. But the truth is very different. In its raw state, many gems come covered in natural crusts, pieces of host rock, or even opaque layers formed by secondary minerals. And instead of being flaws, these features are actually valuable clues for those who know what to look for. Unfortunately, people who don't know this often try to clean the stone aggressively, using metal brushes, household cleaners, vinegar, bleach, or even caustic soda. Their intentions might be good, but the result is often irreversible. Depending on the type of gemstone, even a simple cleaning attempt can damage the surface, dull the natural shine, cause internal fractures, or erase key features that would have helped identify the stone's type and origin. One subscriber once told me about a stone he found with a milky glow and a few orange spots. Thinking it was just dirt, he soaked it in bleach for 2 days. What he didn't know was that the stone was probably an opal, one of the most delicate gemstones out there. When he took it out, the surface was dull, cracked, and completely lifeless. Even if it had been a common opal, it had lost all its value. And the worst part? He only realized what he'd ruined after showing the original photos to a specialist. This kind of mistake is even more common with stones like tourmaline, apatite, topaz, and even emeralds. Depending on their type and origin, all of them can react badly to chemical agents. Even seemingly tougher stones like garnet can get scratched or chipped if handled improperly with metal tools. Here's an important detail. Many valuable stones still have part of the host rock attached. And that's not just normal. It actually helps experts understand how and where the gemstone formed. Gemologists look closely at these features to determine whether a stone is natural, treated, or synthetic. But when someone tries to make a stone look prettier, They often remove the very evidence that proves its authenticity. There's even a technical name for this: overcleaning. It's a mistake even experienced collectors can make, especially when preparing a stone for sale or appraisal. But for someone who's just starting out, it can be fatal, because it removes the subtle signs that can only be seen under magnification. Now, if you're wondering, so how should I properly clean a raw stone? The answer is simple. Use running water, a soft bristled brush, like a kid's toothbrush, and the least amount of interference possible. The goal isn't to polish or transform the stone. It's just to remove loose dirt so you can examine it more carefully. And even then, only if it's really necessary. Because in many cases, the raw and natural look of a gemstone is exactly what makes it special, especially for collectors. A bluish sapphire with a brown crust might look dirty, but if it's intact and its structure is preserved, it's worth far more than a clean stone that's been damaged. The most important thing to remember is that a gemstone doesn't have to look valuable to be valuable. Cutting, polishing, and refining comes later, done carefully by professionals, often in specialized labs. Your job when you find an interesting stone isn't to make it perfect. It's to protect it. Keep it just as you found it, because any damage in those first few minutes can ruin the entire chance of proper evaluation. And speaking of evaluation, the next mistake we'll look at is directly connected to this. A mistake that often happens before the cleaning process, and one that can literally destroy any valuable stone you found, even a diamond. By now, it should be clear that preserving a stone in its most natural and intact form is essential. But even knowing that, many beginners still make a common mistake, maybe out of curiosity, anxiety, or just lack of guidance. And that mistake is trying to break the stone open to see what's inside. And honestly, this is one of the most destructive things someone can do to a potential gemstone. The logic seems simple. You find a heavy stone with a strange outer texture and think, what if there's something beautiful hidden inside? Maybe you've seen videos of people cracking open geodes with a hammer. Or you assume that every valuable stone must have a sparkling core, like a mineral Easter egg waiting to be revealed. But as tempting as that idea might be, it's incredibly risky, because many high-value gems already have a defined external appearance. They don't need to be broken open to show their beauty. In fact, breaking them ruins it. Crystals like garnet, sapphire, spinel, or topaz typically form as individual complete structures. So when you break a stone like that, what you're really doing is destroying a crystal that could have had serious value, or even more, if properly cut and polished. I once got a message from a subscriber who found a dark, heavy stone with a subtle metallic shine and a rounded shape. Thinking it was just a chunk of basalt or some common rock, he hit it with a masonry hammer to check what was inside. The first hit shattered it in multiple directions, and when he looked inside, he saw a pinkish, crystalline structure, possibly garnet or spinel. But it was too late. The fracture had completely ruined the gem's shape. Later, he found out it was likely an almandine garnet, the kind that can be worth dozens or even hundreds of dollars if left intact. And worse still, that specific specimen had signs of an unusual formation, which would have made it even more valuable as a whole piece. Damage like that is irreversible, because contrary to what many people think, most gems are not unlocked amid aramite with a hammer. They're identified through their shape, color, shine, internal structure, weight, and the environment they were found in. A crystal might look ugly on the outside, but still be incredibly valuable if it's complete and well preserved. Now, of course, there are exceptions like geodes. Those are hollow rocks with crystals inside, and in some cases, opening them does reveal stunning mineral formations. But even with geodes, there's a proper technique for opening. The most valuable ones are cut with diamond saws or opened under controlled pressure to avoid damaging the crystals inside. Smashing a stone with a hammer or breaking it out of impulse almost never ends well. And there's more. Some of the rarest formations in nature come precisely from the contrast between a rough exterior and a mineralized interior. Stones that look dark, dull, or crusty on the outside can hide green tourmaline, blue apatite, or even emeralds forming inside small cavities. When those stones are cracked randomly, the gems inside often shatter or detach in ways that destroy their value. What's saddest is that, in most cases, it happens simply because people don't know better. They think they're being smart, trying to quickly find out what's inside, but in doing so, they eliminate the chance to ever have the stone properly evaluated. Because even if there was something rare in there, once it's broken, no one can confirm what it was, where it came from, or if it was part of a unique geological structure. So if you find a suspicious-looking heavy stone with an unusual texture, the best thing to do is nothing, just observe. Keep it safe. Avoid dropping it, hitting it, or trying to force it open. Use a magnifying glass, study the surface calmly, check the weight and shine under natural light. If you're unsure, take pictures and seek expert advice. But never, ever make decisions on impulse. Because breaking a stone might satisfy your curiosity, but it could also destroy a discovery that might have changed your life. And since we're talking about destruction by impulse, let's now move on to a different, but equally common mistake. One that often happens even before the stone is cleaned or broken. A mistake that begins with how a person sees what they found. In the next part, we'll talk about one of the most misleading judgments when it comes to natural stones. Believing that every pretty rock must be valuable, and that an ugly one, on the other hand, is worth nothing. As you've seen so far, trying to break a stone can ruin any chance of correctly identifying a valuable gem. But sometimes the mistake is the exact opposite, putting too much value on a stone just because it looks pretty. This is a very common mistake among beginners. All it takes is finding a transparent or colorful crystal with a well-defined shape to immediately think, I think I just found a diamond, or this must be worth a fortune. And I get that reaction. After all, when you see something shiny with an interesting shape, something that stands out in nature, it's only natural to think it could be rare. But the truth is, looks alone aren't enough. There are beautiful crystals out there that have no real market value, and there are stones that look plain or even ugly on the outside, but are worth thousands of dollars once properly evaluated. A great example is quartz. It's one of the most abundant minerals in nature and forms amazing crystals, with glassy luster and perfect hexagonal shapes. I've lost count of how many times someone sent me a photo thinking they had found a diamond. The same goes for natural glass, also known as tektite, which can have a smooth, translucent appearance even with air bubbles inside, confusing even trained eyes. Not to mention colorless topaz, which often looks like white sapphire, or natural zirconia that can resemble diamonds almost perfectly. So how can you tell the difference? The good news is there are simple tests you can do at home to start the investigation. Tests like hardness using a specific sandpaper or known objects, the density test using a scale and water, and even tests involving light, like checking the luster under natural sunlight or UV. These small steps can help rule out the common stones and focus your attention on the ones that really matter. Here on the channel, we've already shown how to perform each of these tests, and in our complete ebook, you'll find detailed explanations, clear illustrations, and real-world examples of how to apply these methods in the field without needing expensive equipment. Because in the world of gemstones, what matters isn't what shines the most, it's what passes the test. Now that you know not every pretty stone is a precious gem, it's time to talk about a mistake that's becoming more and more common and more dangerous. Trusting everything you see on Facebook groups, TikTok, or other social media platforms. It's really easy to fall into this trap. Just type something like, "How to tell if I found a gemstone," and you'll get dozens of videos, comments, and posts offering quick tips, foolproof tricks, or visual comparisons that claim to solve everything in seconds. Some people say that if your stone scratches glass, it must be a diamond. Others swear that if it glows in the dark, it's worth a lot of money, and so on. But the truth is, most of this information is either incomplete, inaccurate, or just plain wrong. And what makes it even more dangerous is that a lot of it comes from people who genuinely mean well, but have no real knowledge of gemology. What many people don't realize is that every region of the world has its own types of rocks and minerals. A stone that looks rare in a video filmed in Canada might be extremely common if you found it in Texas. Or the opposite, you could be holding a valuable gem only to be told in the comments that it's worthless just because it doesn't look like what someone saw on TikTok. Here on the channel, I've received plenty of messages from subscribers who almost threw away valuable stones because someone in a Facebook group said it was just gravel. And I've also seen the reverse. People holding onto melted glass, thinking it was sapphire, just because it looked pretty in the light. Now imagine that after watching this video, you decide to explore a dry riverbed or check out that gravel trail near your home, and suddenly you spot a green stone embedded in a rock. You notice a metallic shine and a strange weight for its size. At first glance, it looks pretty ordinary, but something makes you pause. And then the question hits, did I just find an emerald, a jade, or is it just a sapphire? There are many ways to find out. Some are more complex, others require expensive equipment or professional analysis. But knowing what you're holding could save you from being tricked, or worse, from selling something worth thousands of dollars for pennies. Many of our subscribers have already reached out in the comments or through the members area saying they found strange stones, unusual colors, weird shapes, or just something that looks special. But they were afraid to break it, didn't know how to test it, or worse, sold it cheaply without realizing they were holding a real gemstone. Think about it. What's the point of finding one of these rocks, noticing the signs, carefully digging it out, seeing a crystal sparkle in the light, and in the end, having no idea what you're actually holding? The truth is, finding a rare stone is only half the journey. The real value lies in knowing what you found. So the question is, can you really identify gemstones using simple methods at home? Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly why I created the ebook Gemology Journey for Beginners. It's a complete guide designed for those who are just getting started, with clear descriptions, detailed illustrations, and practical tests you can do at home. No lab required. You'll learn how to test hardness, density, transparency, luster, and how to figure out whether you're looking at quartz, tourmaline, topaz, garnet, black opal, or if you're really lucky, even a diamond. The digital version is already available with lifetime access, including all future updates for free, and all subscribers to this channel get an exclusive discount. For the next few days, you can grab your copy for just $9.99 by clicking the first link in the description or the pinned comment below. And if for any reason you're not satisfied, there's a full 7-day money-back guarantee. But that's not all. We're also launching the updated physical edition of the ebook, ready to ship. That's right, you'll be able to hold the complete guide in your hands, printed on high-quality paper, with detailed illustrations, and everything you need to identify gemstones with confidence, without having to rely on anyone else's opinion. And none of this would have been possible without you. This channel just hit a milestone that, honestly, I never imagined when I started. 100,000 subscribers who chose to learn, explore, and search for their own treasures. If you're one of them, thank you for being part of this journey. I also want to give a huge thank you to all the channel members who support this project every month. It's thanks to you that we've been able to grow, improve the videos, create exclusive materials, and now even launch a physical book. This community has grown so much that we're even inspiring other content creators, and it's here to help you on your own journey. But if now's not the right time to grab the ebook or become a member, that's totally okay. You can still subscribe and enjoy all the upcoming videos for free. In fact, in the next video, you'll learn how to find precious stones in the most unexpected places. And yes, that's 100% possible. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Have you ever seen a rock wall like the one showing on your screen right now? Massive, solid, full of cracks and imperfections. It just looks like a regular cliff, right? Now imagine someone walks up to you and says that inside that very wall, there could be precious stones of all shapes, sizes, and colors. Would you believe it? Well, that's exactly what many geologists and experienced gem hunters already know. And that's why massive excavators like this one are built, and billions of dollars are spent every year by companies trying to extract those hidden minerals. In other words, what most people see as just another dull, lifeless rock wall might actually be hiding a real treasure, because what you're looking at is volcanic rock. And thousands of years ago, that entire cliff was nothing but boiling magma, rising from deep within the earth, until it exploded violently in an eruption. But here's the most impressive part. As that magma begins to cool, It solidifies into rock, and inside, it can form crystals that developed under extreme pressure and temperature like diamonds, sapphires, spinels, peridots, zircons, all of them hiding inside tiny pockets and fractures that only trained eyes can recognize. And the wildest part? Sometimes these gems are completely invisible until someone breaks open the right rock in the right spot. Now think about this for a second. How can a rough, dark, sometimes gray and ugly rock hide something as bright as the diamond you're seeing on your screen right now? It sounds impossible, but that's just how nature works. It loves to hide its greatest masterpieces in the most unlikely places. But what does that mean for you? Do you need to blow up an entire mountain to find one of these stones? Of course not. In fact, you're about to learn the opposite. How gem hunters around the world are able to find these treasures using simple tools, like a sieve, a magnifier, and a close analysis of loose fragments in the soil. No need to spend thousands of dollars on heavy mining equipment. So stick with me until the end, because in today's video, I'm going to show you the 5 most valuable gemstones that can form inside volcanic rock. And if you pay close attention, you'll understand exactly how to find one using nothing more than what nature already gives you. Now take a close look at this white rock showing up on your screen. Looks pretty simple, right? Very light in color, kind of chalky and dull, with a texture that reminds you of limestone or plaster. But let me ask you something. Do you have any idea what kind of gemstone could be hiding inside a rock like that? Most people have no clue, and that's exactly where the secret lies. Because inside this unimpressive rock, you might find one of the most valuable and deceptive crystals out there, spinel. This gem was mistaken for ruby for centuries, and it's no wonder the shine, the color, even the shape of the crystals are so similar that even professional jewelers have made serious mistakes. Just to give you an idea, that famous red jewel in the British crown, the one everyone thought was a ruby, it's actually a spinel. What's even more interesting is that in photos and geological records, spinel often appears exactly like this, embedded in light-colored rocks, especially in ancient metamorphic formations. These rocks are formed through deep transformations that happen when limestone and dolomite are exposed to extreme heat and pressure, usually near tectonic collision zones or areas with a long history of volcanic activity. In those environments, spinel crystals grow with well-defined shapes and vibrant colors that make them look like they were already cut and polished by the earth itself. Now you might be thinking, okay, but how am I supposed to find a stone like that if it's stuck inside a mountain wall? And the answer is simpler than you might think. You don't need to blow anything up. What experienced gem hunters do is pay close attention to the surroundings. If there are cliffs, marble outcrops, or metamorphic rock formations in the area, then chances are the soil nearby has loose fragments from those same rocks. That's where rivers, slopes, and hillsides come in. When it rains, the water breaks off and carries down small pieces of those rocks. Rivers and streams act like natural conveyor belts, slowly transporting that material. Over time, some of those fragments get trapped along riverbanks, eroded slopes, or in places where the current slows down. And that's where you might find loose crystals, including spinel, without having to dig deep or break any stone. With a basic sieve, a magnifying glass, and a bit of patience, you can spot these gems by their shine, shape, and color, even if they're covered in a thin layer of dirt. So next time you come across a pale, chalky-looking rock, or if you're walking along a riverbed near one of these formations, pay attention. You might be standing right where nature left behind one of the most valuable crystals that even fooled royalty. And the difference between finding a regular rock and discovering a rare gemstone is knowing what to look for. And more importantly, paying attention to the landscape around you. And this is just the beginning. Because now that you understand how spinel forms and spreads through nature, it's going to be a lot easier to use that same knowledge as we dive into the next gemstones coming up in this video. Take a look at the dark, porous rock that is now showing up on your screen. The surface looks scorched, full of petrified bubbles, with an uneven texture that seems like it was shaped by fire. And in a way, it actually was. What you're seeing is a piece of basalt, a volcanic rock formed when liquid magma cools quickly after reaching the surface. And even though it might seem like just a hardened chunk of lava, it could be hiding one of the most fascinating gemstones on Earth, Peridot. This vibrant green stone you see glowing now forms under such extreme conditions that only the heart of the Earth could produce it. Peridot originates deep in the Earth's mantle, more than 50 miles below the surface, in a place where heat and pressure are so intense that almost nothing survives. The only way it reaches the surface is through an explosive volcanic eruption, the kind that turns magma into basalt or olivine-rich formations. And here's the secret. Peridot is actually the gem-quality version of olivine. When this mineral crystallizes with good clarity and strong color, it becomes a gemstone. And it can be quite valuable, especially when it's natural, well-sized, and clean in appearance. Some peridots can sell for anywhere between $50 and $300 per carat depending on the quality, origin, and cut. But where can you find a stone that was born so deep inside the planet? The answer is in volcanic rocks. In Hawaii, for example, you can sometimes see small pieces of peridot mixed into the black sand of lava beaches. In Arizona, especially on the San Carlos Apache Reservation, there are basalt-rich areas full of olivine where local gem hunters still find peridot today. And many of them use a simple but extremely effective method, sieving. This technique, which existed long before modern gemology, involves collecting loose soil, sifting it carefully, and examining each grain that sparkles in the sunlight. Here's a tip. Peridot has a very specific yellow-green color, almost like a leaf lit by a flashlight. That glow, combined with its glassy and grainy appearance, makes it easier to tell apart from other crystals. And even if it seems basic, this method of sieving soil is actually one of the most advanced forms of traditional gem hunting. It focuses exactly where time and gravity have already done most of the work, separating the densest, most durable, and most valuable fragments from everything else. In regions with volcanic history, all you need to do is look where the basalt naturally breaks apart. Hillsides, gullies, and riverbanks are perfect places to begin your search. Now that we've seen everything so far, could you describe what's on your screen? Yes, it's exactly what it looks like. A diamond trapped inside a dark, crumbly, uneven rock. And as strange as it may seem, this is exactly where the world's most valuable diamonds are born. That rock is called kimberlite, and for those who don't know it, it looks like anything but valuable. But among experts, kimberlite is one of the most sought-after rocks on the planet because it's where diamonds form, grow, and in rare cases, reach the surface. Kimberlite is a rare volcanic rock formed by magma that comes directly from the Earth's mantle. And unlike regular lava flows, this magma rises at extremely high speeds through narrow channels known as kimberlite pipes. It works like a natural elevator, bringing up fragments of the mantle along with it. And it's within those fragments that diamonds are created, under pressure and temperature conditions that only exist deep underground, more than 90 miles beneath the surface. The most surprising thing is the contrast. The rock that carries one of the most valuable materials on Earth is also one of the ugliest to look at. Kimberlite usually has a crumbly, dark appearance with greenish or bluish-gray tones and a porous texture that looks like dry cement mixed with volcanic ash. But don't be fooled. That rough look is actually a sign that a true treasure might be hidden inside. And it's not just diamonds found in kimberlite. These formations can also contain other rare and valuable gemstones such as chromite, in some cases spinel, Peridot garnet, which is a deep red garnet, Peridot zircon, and even topaz. But what really matters in the field is knowing how to recognize the signs. That's where indicator minerals come in. They act like clues left behind by nature. The main kimberlite indicators are garnet, especially the chromium-rich variety that shows a reddish or purplish tone, ilmenite, which has a dark metallic shine, and chromite with its intense black color and dull luster. These minerals are not only resistant to erosion, but also dense and distinct enough to be sifted from the soil, just like people do with gold or other gems. That means even if you don't see any exposed kimberlite, the presence of these indicators in nearby rivers, slopes, or hillsides might suggest that a kimberlite pipe is close. That's why, when you find one of these indicator crystals loose in a riverbed, it's worth following the stream upstream and searching for fragments of dark, compacted, crumbly rock. If you're lucky and patient, you might find the source. And that's when, buried in what looks like a worthless rock, you could uncover a raw diamond, just like the one you're seeing right now. Next, we've got a gemstone that's just as well hidden, but has a golden glow that almost no one can ignore. Let's keep going. Now take a look at this tiny crystal on your screen. At first glance, it might seem completely insignificant, right? So small that you'd almost overlook it. But what you're seeing here is a zircon. And despite its size, this little stone is a true fossil of the earth. Literally. Because among all the gems we've talked about so far, none have a story as ancient as this one. Zircon is one of the oldest substances ever found in the Earth's crust. Some crystals dated by scientists are over 4 billion years old. That's right, billion with a B. That means before continents even existed, before any form of complex life appeared, zircons were already there, forming deep inside igneous rocks, while the planet was still a chaotic ocean of magma in transformation. But why does that matter? Because zircon is not only a gemstone used in high-end jewelry, it's also a powerful scientific tool. Geologists use it to date ancient rock formations, since it can withstand heat, pressure, and time better than almost anything else in nature. Inside its crystal, it holds traces of uranium and thorium. And as these elements decay over time, they act like a natural clock. It's as if each zircon carries a time code, revealing exactly when and where it was formed. Now, in the world of gemology, zircon also has serious value. It can appear in colors like blue, yellow, golden, brown, or even colorless. And when it's well cut, it shines with an intense brilliance, almost as strong as a diamond. That's why high-quality natural zircons can sell for anywhere between $50 and $500 per carat, depending on the color and clarity. Blue zircon, for example, is one of the most sought after, but also one of the rarest. So where can you find a crystal like this? Most zircons form inside igneous rocks like syenite, granite, or even certain types of pegmatite. These are rocks that develop when magma cools slowly, giving crystals time to grow. Out in the field, that means if you're exploring an area with exposed granite or ancient volcanic formations, it's worth taking a closer look. Zircon might be mixed in with larger minerals, or sitting loose as a dense, durable crystal among heavier sediments. Even if it doesn't grab your attention right away, its glassy shine and prismatic shape are solid clues. In places where these rocks have been broken down by erosion, like riverbanks or gullies, zircon tends to collect in spots where lighter material has already been washed away by the water. And that's where the sifting technique comes into play once again. Corundum is the mineral responsible for creating both sapphires and rubies. It's usually found in rough, low-grade rock formations that don't look like much at first. But even though the host rock may seem unattractive, corundum itself is extremely rare and highly sought after by gem hunters all over the world. These two gemstones are among the most desired on the planet, ranking just below diamonds in value and prestige. And the difference between them comes down mostly to color. When corundum is red, we call it a ruby. When it's blue, pink, yellow, green, or even colorless, it's known as a sapphire. But no matter the color, what makes these stones truly special is their extreme hardness, their brilliant luster, and their ability to withstand time, heat, and pressure. Corundum typically forms in metamorphic rocks like gneiss and schist, which go through deep transformations over millions of years. But it can also show up in igneous environments, especially along the edges of ancient volcanic zones where the heat and the right mix of minerals came together in just the right proportions. In those places, the rocks may look dull and broken, with no clear shape, but inside them grow hexagonal crystals with intense color and a glassy shine, ready to become valuable gems. In places like the state of Montana in the United States and in parts of Asia, it's possible to find sapphire and ruby fragments that have been naturally tumbled through rivers. Some get trapped in old gravel beds, and others end up lying loose on the ground, hidden among ordinary stones. Out in the field, experienced gem hunters look for these transition zones between metamorphic and igneous formations. They analyze the soil and check the slopes that have been worn down over time by rain and erosion. And once again, the sifting technique plays an essential role. With this simple method used for generations, you can separate the heavier minerals from the lighter material. Since corundum is extremely hard and resistant to erosion, it tends to settle at the bottom of riverbeds, where the water slows down and the denser particles stay behind. A raw sapphire or ruby might look dull or unimpressive at first, but once it's cleaned and cut, it reveals a transparency and color that can amaze even the most trained eyes. Beyond its hardness, the shape of the crystal also helps with identification. Corundum often forms well-defined crystals, with flat faces and sharp edges, usually in hexagonal or prismatic shapes, which makes it easier to distinguish from more common minerals. Even when it's still embedded in the host rock, its shine can give it away if you know where to look. Sometimes all it takes is a quick rinse or a small chip breaking off to reveal its real value. And that's exactly why, even in rocks with no visual appeal at all, there might be a deep blue sapphire or a blood red ruby hiding in the dust. Now imagine that after watching this video, you decide to explore a dry riverbed near your town, or maybe that little gravel road you walk past every day. And suddenly, right there among the rocks, you spot a small, dark stone with a strange shine and a weight that just doesn't feel normal. At first glance, it looks like just another ordinary rock, but something about it makes you stop. And then the question hits you. Did I just find a rough diamond? Or maybe a ruby still covered in dirt? The one showing on your screen right now is a sapphire, for example. And yes, there are many ways to figure it out. Some are simple, at-home methods, while others require expensive tools or professional lab analysis. But knowing what you're holding could protect you from falling for scams, or worse, from selling something worth thousands of dollars for just a few cents. Think about it. What's the point of finding one of these rare gems, noticing the signs, carefully digging it out, watching it sparkle in the light, only to not even know what you've really found? The truth is, finding the stone is only half the journey. The real value lies in recognizing what you have in your hands. But can you really identify gemstones using simple methods at home? The answer is yes, without a doubt. And that's exactly why I created the ebook Gemology Journey for Beginners. It's a complete guide for anyone just starting out, with clear explanations, detailed images, and practical tests you can do using tools you already have at home, no lab required. You'll learn how to test hardness, density, luster, transparency, and figure out whether that reddish stone you found is quartz, garnet, spinel, topaz, sapphire, or maybe even a ruby or a diamond. The digital version is already available with lifetime access, including all future updates at no extra cost. And just for being a subscriber to this channel, you get an exclusive discount. For a limited time, the ebook is only $14.95 instead of the regular $29.90. Just click the first link in the description or the pinned comment below. And we're also launching a physical edition of the book, printed on high-quality paper with detailed illustrations and everything you need to identify gemstones with confidence, without relying on anyone else's opinion. But if now's not the right time to grab the ebook or become a channel member, that's totally fine. You can still subscribe and enjoy all the upcoming videos completely free. In fact, coming up next, you'll learn how to find precious gemstones in places no one ever thinks to look. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Good luck, Gem Hunter! When you were a child, did you ever play in the sand? Well, you might have noticed that there are lots of colored pebbles, some small, some bigger, with different stripes and shapes, but they're usually mixed in with the sand. After some thought, you might even ask yourself, but are there gems mixed in with the sand? Well, the answer is yes. There is a possibility, however, because much of the sand that is collected and processed is destined for the construction industry. If you think about it, a more pertinent question would be, what kind of gems can you find in construction sand? And you'll understand why. You've probably seen that construction sand is usually sifted before use. This is because in this sand there are various stones and debris of different sizes that can get in the way of preparing the concrete. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that after sieving, there are always these stones left over. Some small, some larger, some color just like the ones you saw when you were playing in the sand. And in case you didn't know, all these stones are thrown away by the masons because they are of no use in construction. But has anyone ever wondered if there might be some kind of precious stone among these stones that have been removed from the building sand? Could we find a diamond in the construction sand? Is that even possible? And what other types of precious or semi-precious stones can be found in construction sand? Well, if you've ever had these questions or are curious to know, don't worry. Today I'm going to take away your curiosity by answering these questions and clearing up these doubts that many people have. So stay tuned, because in today's video you're going to learn about the gems found in construction sand. And to get off to a good start, the first thing you need to understand is this. What kind of stones can we most easily find in building sand? Well, we can find different kinds of stones, some different from others, colored stones that might even catch your eye and make you wonder if one of them might be some kind of valuable stone. But the most important thing now, before we get to the gems themselves, is that you understand the first type of stone that represents the majority of the gems we can find in building sand. It turns out that beach sand itself is made up of many tiny grains of quartz crystals, and these larger stones are like even larger grains of sand themselves, which is why they are also stones from the quartz family. So most of the stones that we find in building sand are different types of stones with different colors and textures, but they belong to the large quartz family. Even though most of the stones are these more common ones, some precious and semi-precious stones can appear among the stones in building sand. So now it's important for you to know that the precious stones found in construction sand depend on where the construction sand was mined. So now that you know that most of the stones belong to the quartz family, the second thing you need to know, if possible, is where the beach sand you have or want to examine was originally mined. If it's not possible to know where your sand came from, in most cases, building sand always comes from places near rivers, including dry rivers that have dried up but were irrigated thousands or millions of years ago. So with that in mind, it's possible to have the same kinds of stones that we would find in a river, or most of them, and some of them stand out like topaz. To give you an idea, topaz is one of the stones you can find in rivers in your region, depending on the geological formations of the place. And if it can be found in rivers, it is also one of the stones we can find in building sand. But calm down, before the haters on duty have a tantrum, I'm not telling you to go out and look for gems in your neighbor's construction sand or at the construction site near your house, and that after some sifting you'll find a beautiful topaz worth thousands of dollars. But I'm not telling you that it's impossible. What I'm presenting here is the possibility that there is a chance of finding a topaz crystal in a sifting of construction sand. For those who don't understand gemstones or who don't watch the videos here on the channel, it would be easy to miss a gemstone if it was found in a sieve, even if it was a very large diamond. Of course, this depends on factors in the region where the sand was mined, such as whether topaz crystals were found there. But assuming you have all these confirmations, how do you tell the difference between a topaz and an ordinary river rock? The first two characteristics you'll notice are whether the stone is crystalline on the inside and dull with a slightly opaque appearance on the outside. It can usually be slightly bluish, and a topaz is usually much heavier than an ordinary quartz of the same size. Another stone that is easy to find in sand pebbles is garnet. If you have even the slightest idea about gemstones, you may be excited because even though garnets are red stones, sometimes mistaken for rubies, they are still a beautiful find. And if your garnet is of sufficient size and quality, it can be considered a high-value gemstone. However, it is more common to find garnets in the middle of rivers in very small sizes, with a brownish color in the form of small spheres, or in some cases, even a bright red with a slight wine tint. But between garnets and topazes, you're more likely to find a topaz gemstone than a garnet in the construction sand end. But it's still possible. And if you do find garnets, even very small ones, that's a good sign, because where we find garnets, we have a greater chance of finding diamonds. But can we find diamonds in construction sand or not? First of all, I want you to know that the goal of this video is not to mislead anyone. And you should know that construction sand is not the best place to look for a diamond, but the answer to this question is yes. Yes, it is possible to find a diamond in construction sand, especially if the sand has been taken from a river that has signs of diamonds along its course, and especially if the sand has not been mined by a large company. And I say this because depending on the company that mines the sand deposits, they may have more sophisticated machinery and will probably remove any type of ore or precious stone that may be there in order to reduce the cost of the operation.
Put a coloring outline on.
There are also companies that extract sand directly from rivers, simply by filling buckets that are delivered directly to the construction site without any prior processing. In these cases, the chances are much higher that there will be several different types of stone mixed in with the sand. But as I said, construction sand is not the best place to look for a gemstone, let alone a diamond. But we can find a diamond in construction sand, even if it's unlikely. The important thing is that you know about this possibility and that you are able to identify these stones, especially diamonds. Because even though it's unlikely, it can happen. In this case, I'm going to leave 2 videos here in the description where I've already shown you how to identify the signs of diamonds in a region and how to tell if it's a real diamond through some very simple tests that you can do at home. So if you don't already know or are not familiar with the type of stone you want to identify, I recommend that you keep watching our videos here on the channel, and if possible, buy the Gemology book for beginners by clicking on the first link in the description. Because with the knowledge in this book, you'll be able to identify any type of gemstone much easier. As I always say in the videos here on the channel, in terms of odds, it's much easier to find a diamond by chance than it is to win the lottery. There are so many cases of rare gemstones found by chance worth millions of dollars that if I stopped the video to tell you 3 of these stories, the video would be hours long. But in addition to these stones, we can find other types of stones in construction sand that are considered semi-precious and may have some value, one of which is jasper, which is mostly red in color. You can even find these stones quite easily. They are opaque, have a very intense red color, and stand out in the sand. You can also find other colors such as yellow and brown. But red is certainly the one that will catch your eye the most. Finding a single jasper is not going to make you a rich person to the point of changing your financial life, as it would if you found a diamond, but it's a little stone that has its value, even if it's small. And if you find a jasper in some construction sand, you can keep it as a lucky stone or a collector's item. In addition to jasper, you can also find agates, which are small stones with different stripes. Generally, the agates found in construction sand are of the more common type, but if you've seen the video on agates, you already know that there are some types of agates that can be worth more than $20,000 for a single stone. It just has to be the right color and attract enough attention. In addition to agates, we can also find various types of petrified wood and some types of fossils. And if you find any of these, they will certainly be great items to keep in your stone collection or as a good luck item. In addition to these stones, as I've said before, most of the stones found in building sand are from the quartz and quartzite family. So many of them are considered common stones, but many can be cut and turned into beautiful jewelry. We can find these little stones rolled in construction sand in various colors, such as some shades of green, shades of orange, pink, various shades of gray, red quartz, yellow quartz, black quartz, white quartz, and many others with so many variations and so many different inclusions that they are not even cataloged. Although they are common quartz stones, once cut, they can become beautiful jewelry and make pendants, earrings, and various other inexpensive pieces of jewelry just by using a common stone found in construction sand, which although common, can also be unique. But finally, I'll leave you with some tips for stones that you may not find in construction sand. So don't create false illusions or expectations. These stones are corundums, popularly known as rubies and sapphires. These are 2 types of gemstones that you won't find in construction sand for a variety of reasons. Although rubies and sapphires are stones that we can actually find in some rivers, these stones are very heavy, and in a river they are unlikely to stay close to the bottom or in a place that has a lot of sand, as are tourmalines, which are also another stone that you won't find in construction sand on due to the nature of their natural formation. You may find some well-worn black tourmaline or quartz inclusions in a river, but this is still very rare, as the really valuable tourmaline crystals are never found in construction sand. Another stone you won't find in construction sand is an emerald or an aquamarine, which are stones of the same family due to the formation of these two stones and their natural crystals, and generally grow in the center of pegmatites in stones found at great and medium depths, incompatible with being in construction sand. So to summarize what you've learned today, the three main types of gemstones that can be found in construction sand are garnets, topazes, and even diamonds. Although the probability is low, you've also learned today that construction sand is not the best place to look for gemstones, but that you can also find various semi-precious stones, and that although they are from the quartz family, many of them can be considered semi-precious, giving you beautiful stones for good luck and collecting, as well as beautiful stones for cutting, giving you beautiful, inexpensive jewelry. If you've ever found a beautiful stone lost in the sand or on the banks of a river and wondered, could I make money selling this stone? Yes, you can. If you can identify what type of stone it is, but you don't know, just watch this video below or access our Gemology book by clicking on the first link in the description.
It's loose, and here we go. Oh my goodness.
Thanks for liking and subscribing. Good luck, gem hunters!